ඔෆිස් එකේදී විතරක් නෙවෙයි මම දැන් ගෙදරදීත් IDD calls ගන්න SLT phone එකේ.
ඔබේ නිවසේ SLT දුරකථනය දැන් IDD පහසුකම සහිතයි.
Making headlines on First at 9. Inclement weather. Incessant downpour affects over 50,000 people across 14 districts. Death toll rises to 9.
Day after tomorrow is a critical day. We expect more than 150 millimeters rainfall.
So there is no closure of roads due to landslides, at least on our main roads.
At the peak, another Sri Lankan makes history by successfully scaling Mount Everest.
That's the whole mountain range, the valley, down. It's very chill.
Dare if you will. Minister of Finance Mangala Samaraweera invites former President Mahinda Rajapakse for a debate on the economy. Curbing outbreak. Minister of Health urges public to take necessary precautions to curb the spread of viral fever in the south.
Now we could say that situation is not escalating, it's on a plateau.
Fortifying the stance. US warns strongest sanction in history against the Iranian leadership. A very good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Katharina Chang. Now on to your top story tonight. From a very young age, children are taught at school of the first men to ever successfully reach the summit of the world's tallest mountain, the Mount Everest. We learned that New Zealander Sir Edmund Hillary and Nepalese Sherpa mountaineer Tenzing Norgay were the first to achieve the feat, as well as how their accomplishment inspired a long list of mountaineers and others to do the impossible. Tonight, we bring you a story of courage, perseverance and determination of Sri Lanka's very own. Today, more determined than ever, mountaineer Johan Piris became the second Sri Lankan to successfully summit Mount Everest, adding to the little-known mountaineering legacy of the island nation. Standing at 29,029 feet above sea level, Mount Everest is the highest mountain on earth. Located in the Mahalangu section of the Himalayas, the mountain summit straddles the border separating China and Nepal. In mountain climbing, however, scaling any peak above 8,000 feet in altitude is no easy feat. Altitude sickness, weather and wind are the major hurdles lying on the way to the summit for most climbers. Many do so at great risk to their very lives. Professional climber Johan Piris, however, took up the challenge in his second attempt, more determined than ever to scale the highest mountain on earth.
On one of our walks to stretch our legs out, that's base camp. And right above it is Everest. That's where we're going to be standing on the 23rd morning. That's the whole mountain range, the valley, down. It's very chill. And on this side is Pumori. Right on top there, that's Pumori Base Camp. That's CJ. CJ, say hi.
Hi.
Our guide. And Jazz. Yeah, just at the bottom of the rest of the mountain range.
Johan Piris was able to successfully reach the summit of Mount Everest at 5:55 a.m. Nepal time, becoming the second Sri Lankan in history to do so. Piris made his first journey to Mount Everest in the April of 2016 with fellow climber Jayanthi Kurutumpala, who became the first Sri Lankan to summit the peak. Expedition manager and close friend of Johan Piris, Sajjada Akbar Ali, spoke to First at 9 on the preparation that went into setting off on this daring task.
Johan first went to climb Mount Everest in 2016 with his climbing partner Jayanthi Kurutumpala. Jayanthi made it to the top. Johan had some problems with his oxygen cylinder, and so he had to turn back 400 meters from the top. At the time, he said he would never contemplate doing it again. But time passed by, and he decided later that he would like to go back and fulfill this dream of his. The training is very grueling. This time he was training on his own, but he had the advantage of having done it before. So he knew what to expect. And this time I would say he was probably 4 or 5 times even better prepared physically than last time. He was training with an oxygen mask which you put on the head, which simulates an altitude of 4,000 meters altitude, which is very high. So physically, I would say he was in superb shape. And I think that may have impacted his trip this time. Yeah, at no stage has he had any problems as far as we know. It's a grave risk. I mean, this is the sort of thing you write your will before you go, because there is a real chance you won't come back, and they did that last time.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says that the government will provide financial assistance to religious sites. The Premier made this remark at an event held in Temple Trees yesterday. An event to distribute funds by the Colombo Municipal Council for the restoration and maintenance of 140 Buddhist temples was held at Temple Trees yesterday. The event was held under the patronage of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe.
පන්සල් විහාරස්ථාන වෙසක් උත්සවය වෙනුවෙන් පොසොම්පෝය වෙනුවෙන් ඒ වගේම එදිනෙදා නඩත්තු කිරීම සඳහා විශාල මුදලක් වියදම් කරන්න සිදු වෙලා තිබෙනවා. මේ මුදල් හොයාගන්න කාරණය ලෙහෙසි පහසු වැඩ කටයුත්තක් නෙමෙයි. ඒ නිසා ඒ වැඩ කටයුතු ඉදිරියට ගෙනියන්න ආධාර උපකාර කිරීමක් හැටියට නගර සභාවෙන් වාර්ෂිකව ඒ වෙනුවෙන්ම මුදල් සම්මාදම් කරනවා. සමාජයේ සංකීර්ණ වන ආධ්‍යාත්මික අතින් තියෙන ඉල්ලීම වැඩි වෙනවා මිස අඩු වෙලා නැහැ. එන එක ලබා දෙන අපේ මේ පන්සල් විහාරස්ථාන ඒව දියුණු කරන්නට ආරක්ෂා කරන විවිධ මාර්ග තිබෙනවා.
In the past it has been less than 100. Last year we gave 121 temples 50,000 rupees each. This year we decided to increase it to 140. This 50,000 is not only given to the Buddhist temples, we do give financial assistance to practically all religious establishments. We will be giving the Muslim temples, the Christian temples and the Hindu kovils. They receive it during their festive seasons.
People in the southern part of the country should be extra vigilant to an outbreak of the virus influenza. The matter came to light when a series of child deaths were reported from hospitals in the southern province. The Minister of Health urges the public to take necessary measures to curb the spread of the virus. The Director of the National Health Services, Dr. Anuja Singh, says that hospitals in the southern province are facilitated to treat influenza patients. The government recently acknowledged an outbreak of the virus influenza in the southern province following an investigation into recent child deaths at hospitals. Taking the situation into consideration, the Minister of Education in the southern province moved to close primary schools across educational zones of Matra, Mulatiyana, Akurassa, Tangol, Valasmula and Gaul both today and tomorrow. Southern Province Education Ministry also called on all nursery schools to be closed until Friday as the influenza virus is at its most destructive with young children. Meanwhile, the Minister of Health urges the public to take all possible precautions to stop contraction of the virus and strongly suggests resorting to medical assistance at the slightest hint of the virus influenza.
It's not only about influenza. Majority of the patients are having normal viral fever. Unfortunately, there had been 7 deaths reported to influenza illness. Now we could say that situation is not escalating. It's on a plateau. We believe that this would come down. At the Ministry of Health, we have taken very many measures to curb this situation. On one hand, the activities that are being taking place in the hospitals, severe infection control measures have been implemented in these hospitals, including curbing of visitors. We have the necessary drugs have been given to the hospitals and necessary equipment are also available with the hospitals. Now the issue is now when a child gets this influenza illness, there is a chance that the condition deteriorates. Of course, when it comes to adults, chances are less to get deteriorated. Therefore, it is advisable that if a child gets flu-like illness, immediately seek medical attention and also don't send your child to daycare. Disease also spreads.
With the onset of the southwest monsoon season, heavy rains of over 150 millimeters was experienced across the island today. Landslides and floods were reported in 14 districts, bringing their toll so far up to 9. The Disaster Management Centre cautioned residents living in low-lying lands located along the Kalani, Kalu, Nilvala and Ging River to remain cautious as there is a risk of flash floods in these areas. Meanwhile, the Minister of Finance has instructed the Treasury officials to release sufficient funds to provide relief to flood victims as soon as possible. Heavy rains experienced across the island has affected 14 districts. According to the Disaster Management Centre, 68,343 individuals from 18,079 families were affected due to the inclement weather. The Disaster Management Centre added that 24,000 individuals are currently displaced and living in temporary relief camps. Within the past 24 hours, the highest rainfall was reported from Kuliapiti in Kurunegala today, measuring at 194.8 millimetres. Low-lying lands along Maoya were inundated due to incessant rains. Forty families in Peterwatta in Dumlasuriya were affected due to floods experienced in the area. Petroleum district, which received highest rainfall yesterday, received an average rainfall over the past 24 hours. Due to Hamilton Canal overflowing, the Petroleum-Colombo railway line in Tumodara area was inundated. Floods were experienced in Madampe and Nathandia in Petroleum district today. Meanwhile, several locations beside Kalu River in areas of Ratnapura, Algava and Millakanda were seen inundated. Furthermore, houses and roads in Bulat Sinhala, Damana, Vallavita, Palinda Nuvara were underwater due to incessant rains. As a result, 10 families living in these areas were relocated to Paraguda Primary School. According to our correspondent, water levels in areas located upstream of Kalu River were seen steadily decreasing. Despite this, however, Anguruwattota, Vallapitiya and Nathupana continue to experience floods. Other Derana took to the skies to see the situation in the Kalutara district. In Ratnapura district, although water levels were seen steadily decreasing in low-lying areas following Kalu River breaking its banks, most locations in the Ratnapura district remain underwater. Meanwhile, schools were closed in Ratnapura district today due to heavy rains. According to our correspondent, vehicular movement in Kotame areas located along the Pandu-Ratnapura main road is at a standstill due to floods in the area. Meanwhile, 100 mines in the Ratnapura district were underwater. This has caused severe inconvenience to miners in the area as the equipment has been destroyed. Meanwhile, Panadugama, located in the Matha district, is underwater due to Nilvala River breaking its banks. This has also caused flooding in Akurassa and Pitabadra. Meanwhile, a vehicle veered off-road in Udakava, situated along Valgama-Kurassa main road due to incessant rains. No injuries were reported in the incident. Floods was experienced in areas of Baddegama due to Ging River breaking its banks. This morning, the Navy was seen carrying out clean-up operations in close proximity to the Wakvella Bridge due to a build-up of debris in the area. With the opening of sluice gates of Lakshapana, Vimla Surendra and Polgula tanks and reservoirs due to the incessant rains in the central hills, strong water currents were witnessed in the area. Families residing in a row of line houses situated above St. Clair waterfall were requested to evacuate due to the risk of landslide. Meanwhile, 10 houses close to Lidula Hospital in Talawa Calais were at the risk of being affected by landslide due to heavy rains in the area. 108 families in Lily's lands in Kotmale were evacuated to Rambode Hindu College due to risk of landslide. Floods were reported in Pattiville area along Colombo-Biyagama main road in Kalaniya. Meanwhile, floods were also experienced in Valipara, Megahavatta in Palayagoda as well. MP Prasanna Ranavira visited residents in the area to observe the situation. Meanwhile, low-lying lands in Mitiyavatta, situated in close proximity to Kalani River, was inundated. Meanwhile, 11-feet crocodile was discovered in Rabavatte in Delkanda this evening following floods experienced in the area. Residents took measures to capture the crocodile. The National Building Research Organisation has decided to lift the red alert imposed on 5 districts since rainfall was relatively lower today. However, the NBRO goes on to urge the public in those districts to remain on alert. The National Building Research Organisation issued red notices for 5 districts island-wide, effective from 3 p.m. last evening. However, the NBRO requests people residing in these areas to be on alert for landslides. In the meantime, Minister of Finance Mangda Samaravira has directed the officials of the Treasury to release money that are sufficient to provide relief to those affected by the recent floods. Meanwhile, the Road Development Authority convened a media briefing this afternoon to explain the prevailing situation.
So during this season, we have experienced comparatively less number of landslides. After the last year's disaster, we studied the probable locations for landslides and we treated those probable landslides and during this rainy season. And the landslide occurred also, by now we have cleared each and every location and the whole country is passable other than the locations where flood waters are there. So there is no closure of roads due to landslides, at least on our main roads. If there is any bad condition, the citizens can inform us by using 1968, the hotline for non-expressway roads. For expressways, 1969 as usual.
The Disaster Committee meeting of the Colombo Municipal Council was held today under the chairmanship of its mayoress, Rosi Senanayaka.
There's no risky situation in Colombo city by now. Around 580 people are slightly affected by the flood situation. 20 million rupees are allocated for such disaster situations and from which I released 1 million rupees. I have cancelled the leave of relief officers and other labourers. The fire brigade too is ready 24 hours with us to face any situation. In
the meantime, the Disaster Management Centre too convened a media briefing this afternoon.
Ministry already allocated 34.5 million, especially for cooked meals and dry ration and emergency purpose. Tomorrow, we are expecting from 100 to 150 millimeters rainfall, particularly Madhugama and Bulat Singhala area. According to our meteorological department analyzed, day after tomorrow is a critical day. We expect more than 150 millimeters rainfall, especially Kalathura, Kekol, Rattanapura and Colombo district. And also our emergency operations center is functioning 24 hours.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Minister of Petroleum Resources Development Arjuna Ranatunga makes evident that the loss-making national carrier Sri Lankan Airlines and the Ceylon Electricity Board should make their due payments to the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation for stocks of fuel purchased. The minister says that discussions may be the way forward towards this end, and it is currently being contemplated.
On the receivables from CEB and Sri Lankan Airlines?
55 billion from CEB,
12 billion from
Sri Lankan Airlines. We have been discussing, but only thing is that we won't be able to stop supplying for them now. Ultimately, it's another government institution. So it's up to we have been having discussions, the secretaries have been having discussions, but it has not materialized properly. But we can stop giving oil, but then the country will go dark. Then the airlines won't be able to fly. So because of that, we have informed this to the cabinet, and we are still trying to see whether we can, by discussion, whether we can receive these things. It's not that easy. Even they are also struggling. So ultimately, it's a couple of government organizations where we have to sit and see how we can, both parties can benefit.
The All Share Price Index ended 0.1% firmer at 6,472.25, edging up from its lowest close since May 15 hit yesterday. The net foreign earnings in the market was 73.3 million rupees today. Let's cross over to Imesh Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange for a detailed report.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 3,022.89 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 531.87 million rupees and foreign sales were 458.57 million rupees. There were 8 crossings today and the crossing turnover was 387.72 million rupees.
Getting back to one of our local news now, a tense situation broke out in the parliament today. It occurred when the opposition requested for a debate on the prevailing disaster situation and the governing party didn't respond positively.
අධික වර්ෂාව නායාය සාකච්ඡා කිරීම සඳහා දෙවැන්න රජයේ හදිසියේ වැඩි කරන ලද පෙට්‍රෝල් භූමි තෙල් බස් ගාස්තු ආදී මිල වැඩි කිරීම ගැන පාර්ලිමේන්තු විවාදයක් සිදු කළ යුතු බව අප යෝජනා කරනවා.
පක්ෂ නායක රැස්වීමේ කියු පරිදි දවසේ කටයුතු සම්මත කරලා දෙනවා නම් මේ විවාදයට අපි සූදානම්.
පක්ෂ නියෝජනයේ රැස්වීමේදී අප එංග උනේ හෙට පරිසරයේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් එන නිසා ගංවතුර ගැන කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්.
පක්ෂ නායක රැස්වීමට වඩා ලොකු වෙන්නේ මේ ගරු සභාව. අපි 21 දෙනෙක් මේ മന്ത്രിවරු වශයෙන් නැකිලා ස්ථාවර නියෝග අනුව දෙන යෝජනාවට පක්ෂද විපක්ෂද කියලා ඡන්ද විමසීමක් කරන්න.
උදේ දුන්නා ඉල්ලීමක් කළා.
ඉල්ලීමක් නෙමෙයි ලිඛිත.
ලිඛිත ඉල්ලීමක් කළා.
මේ වගේ හදිසි තත්වයක් ඇති වුණාම ඔබතුමා කතානායකතුමා හැටියට ඒ විවාදය ලබා දීම පැත්තේ ඕනේ ඉන්න. මන් දන්නේ ඔබතුමා කාවද ආරක්ෂා කරන්නේ.
නෑ මම කිසි කෙනෙක් ආරක්ෂා කරන්න හේතුවක් නෑ.
ඔබතුමා බෙදීමක් දෙන්න.
මේක උදේ මේ මම ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කළා. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂයක් එක මම කායකවත් යන්නේ නෑ.
මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ පැන නැගුවා ඔබතුමා තීරණයක් දුන්නා. එහෙනම් තියෙන ඒ තීරණය චැලෙන්ජ් කරන්න. ආපෝකින් ඡන්දයක් ඉල්ලන්න බෑ.
මේ රටද පනතද ලෝකෝ. අද විවාදයට භාජනය වෙන්නේ විදේශ ආයෝජන පිළිබඳ. ඕක ගැන කතා කරලා වැඩක් නෑ. බල්ලෙක් මේ රටට එන්නේ නෑ.
මේ අමාත්‍යංශයේ යටතේ චීනේ පවා කියනවා චීනේ කිවිසුම රැවට්ටුවා කියලා. චීනේ බොරු කියලා නෑ. තමුන්නාංශේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ඇවිල්ලා බොරු කිව්වා. චීනේ දූපතක් ඉල්ලනවා දැන්. අපිට දෙන්න ගම් වතුර හා මේ ඉන්ධන අර්බුදය පිළිබඳ අද මුළු දවසම විවාද කරන්න.
න්‍යාය පත්‍රය හදන්නේ ආණ්ඩුව විපක්ෂ නෙවෙයි.
Minister of Finance and Mass Media Mangala Samaraweera today extended an open invitation to former President Mahinda Rajapakse for a television debate regarding the country's economy. Addressing a media briefing at the Finance Ministry today, he also responded to questions on the recent statements made against him by former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapakse.
There isn't much of a difference between the cost of living during the last period of Rajapakse regime and now. I asked former President Mahinda Rajapakse, who was a Minister of Finance, to come for an open television debate on the matter with me.
ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයා සඳහන් කළා තිබුණා 2014 වර්ෂයේදී මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහතාගේ ආණ්ඩුව සමග ඔබතුමා එක් වෙන්න
මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශය සහ නීති සම්පාදන අමාත්‍යාංශය ඔබතුමාට දෙන්න ඕනි කියන කාරණාවත් තුමාට යෝජනාවක් අරගෙන ආවා කියලා.
සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම අසත්‍යයක් ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම ඔව්.
It is a complete lie. Ahead of the presidential election in 2015, the Rajapakse brothers said they wanted to meet with me, but I refused to meet with Gotabaya Rajapakse. And when I said they should come for a meeting if they want instead of calling me, former President Mahinda Rajapakse came to meet me at my residence. I never went to meet with anybody. Yes, of course, many of us in the country are scared of him because these are the crimes which were committed with the former Defence Secretary's alleged involvement. Aiding and abetting the preparation of diplomatic passports, including that of Karuna Amman's, abduction and torture of Keith Noya by army intelligence officers, murder of Lasantha Wickramatunge using a sharp weapon, attack on Upali Tennakon, abduction of Pragit Eknaligoda, killings of 26 prisoners in the Valikada prison, beating of protesters within the Value Area police zone, incidents of avant-garde, floating armoury and Dear Rajapakse Memorial and Museum. He slings mud at others but spends millions of rupees to hire the best lawyers to take 2 court orders saying he cannot be arrested. If he is innocent, then he must come before court. No one will drag him like how they did with Sarath Fonseca because law has its sovereignty.
සරත් ෆොන්සේකා වගේ නීතියෙන් පිටස්තරව ඇදගෙන ගිහිල්ලා හිරේ කවුරුවත් දාන්නේ නීතිය ආධිපත්‍යය තියෙනවා.
The office of former President Mahinda Rajapakse in a statement to media says that the government is misleading the public using the payers' money. The statement says the government spreads false information over the price of crude oil during his tenure.
The statement released by the office of former President Mahinda Rajapakse says that the government is using taxpayers' money to mislead the people. It shows that an advertisement published by the Finance and Media Ministry stated in 2014 the world price of crude oil was $60 and that petrol was being sold at 157 rupees per litre, whereas today in 2018 the price of crude oil is $78 per barrel and the local price of petrol is 137 rupees per litre. It added that the government is trying to imply that the price of petrol is lower under the good governance regime than it was under the Rajapakse government. The statement says that anyone who reads the latest central bank report will see that the average price of crude oil imports during the year 2014 was over $104 and not $60 as claimed in the Finance and Media Ministry's advertisements. It also charges that despite their pledge to reduce tax on fuel, the government is levying a massive tax on fuel and making a significant profit on the difference between the world market price of crude oil and the retail price of fuel. Meanwhile, the Economic Research Unit of the Joint Opposition also had a media briefing today in Colombo and addressed the same topic. UPFA parliamentarian who represents the Joint Opposition, Dr. Bandula Gunawardena, addressing the media briefing said that the government was using the taxpayers' money on advertisements to create wrong impressions about the Mahinda Rajapakse era.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Welcome back to the news. US President Donald Trump and South Korea's Moon Jae-in are due to hold talks in Washington amid uncertainty over a planned US-North Korea summit. Last week, the North said it may cancel the summit if the US insists on it giving up its nuclear weapons unilaterally. Moon will try to calm US nerves to get talks back on track. The historic 12 June summit is due to take place in Singapore. It follows a summit between Kim and Moon in April. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo warns that the United States would impose the strongest sanctions in history against the Iranian leadership after Washington pulled out of the 2015 nuclear deal. This statement by Pompeo had now gained widespread criticism from many nations, including Middle Eastern nations and the European Union. US President Donald Trump declared recently that the United States would withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal, claiming that it had failed to prevent Tehran from developing nuclear weapons or supporting terrorism in the region. It was in this backdrop that US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo laid out 12 demands for Iran yesterday and said relief from sanctions would only come when Washington had seen tangible shifts in Iran's policy.
The Iranian regime should know that this is just the beginning.
These will indeed end up being the strongest sanctions in history when we are complete. Iran will be forced to make a choice. Either fight to keep its economy off life support at home or keep squandering precious wealth on fights abroad. It will not have the resources to do both. We will track down Iranian operatives and their Hezbollah proxies operating around the world, and we will crush them. Iran will never again have carte blanche to dominate the Middle East.
Iran responded immediately with Foreign Minister Javad Zarif condemning the United States for vowing to impose these sanctions. Foreign Policy Chief of the European Union, Federica Mogherini, also criticized the US. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan meanwhile said, quote, "Those who have more than 15,000 nuclear warheads are currently threatening the world," unquote. Meanwhile, Iran, China, Russia, France, Germany and Britain will attend the meeting of Joint Commission under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action on Friday. The meeting will discuss the next steps after the withdrawal of the United States from the Iran nuclear deal. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro is facing an international backlash after winning his second six-year term in a landslide vote marked by an opposition boycott and claims of vote rigging. 14 countries, including Argentina, Brazil and Canada, have recalled their ambassadors from Caracas in protest. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro won re-election to another six-year term on Sunday, amid allegations of vote rigging and criticism over the low turnout of just 46.1%. Maduro's rival in the presidential election, Henry Falcon, said he would not recognize Sunday's election because of irregularities, including the placing of nearly 13,000 pro-government stands close to polling stations. Even before the election took place, the United States, Canada, the European Union and a dozen Latin American countries said they would not recognize the results. It was in this backdrop that the US imposed new economic sanctions after Sunday's election, with US President Donald Trump calling for new elections to be held. Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jorge Arreza called the sanctions madness, barbaric and in absolute contradiction to international law. New Mexico, Colombia, Chile, Panama and Peru are among those scaling back after their diplomatic relations with Venezuela. But Russia, El Salvador, Cuba and China congratulated President Maduro on his election win. China said the parties should respect the choices made by the people of Venezuela. Hyundai's Belgian driver Thierry Neuville took the World Rally Championship lead after winning the Portugal Rally. It was the second event win of the season for the Belgian, who placed second on the rally's closing fifth power stage, leaving Neuville with a 40-second lead over nearest rival Britain's Elfyn Evans of M Sport Ford. Neuville now takes over the top spot in the overall championship leaderboard from Frenchman Sébastien Ogier, who crashed out in Portugal on Friday. Let's now cross over to Manusha Jayatilaka at the other Derana Weather Centre.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. The onset of the southwest monsoon will bring about some turbulent weather conditions for the island in the coming week, starting from tomorrow. But we will experience normal temperatures which are to vary between 21 to 31 degrees Celsius, with the highest temperature expected in the Ampara district. Lowest temperature can of course be expected in the hills. And moving on to your rain forecast, we can expect thunder showers in all provinces of the island over the next 24 hours with heavy falls of about 150 millimeters. However, the coastal belt from Jaffna to Galle will have to brace for almost continuous showers throughout the day tomorrow. That's it from your weather center tonight. Up next is your city by city forecast.
That's it from Mother Derana First at 9 for tonight. But before we go, we'd like to leave you with some visuals of Trincomalee, the port city of the Eastern Province, which is also a booming location for resorts. Hope you enjoy the visuals. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.